Good afternoon, everybody. It's our pleasure that we have you today in order to get informed about the Arab-German Young Academy of Sciences and Technology and their input in the green hydrogen energy transition and the future of STEM education in the Arab region and Europe. For the speakers that we have today, we have Professor Dr. Verena Lepper. We have me myself as being Associate Professor Dr. Sarah Abdelgaber. We have Professor Dr. Lubna Saeed, and we have Professor Dr. Moore Ringen, and we have Professor Dr. Fidel as well. Some of them will join us through Zoom. They are based in Germany at the moment, and we are happy to be along with you here in Vienna. Let me, at the beginning, introduce you to Professor Dr. Verena Lepper. I'll share with you a short biography about her. She is the creator of the Egyptian and Oriental Papyrus collection of the Egyptian Museum, National Museum, Berlin. And she is an honorary professor at the Humboldt University, Berlin. She is in charge of a collection with around 30,000 objects in 10 different languages, and she has managed several exhibitions and research projects in Germany and abroad. That includes Abu Dhabi, Berlin, Bonn, Doha, Harvard, with a team of employees. She conducts research on topics such as Egyptian and Oriental textiles, and cultural history, and the history of science and art. To this end, she has published 15 books and exhibition catalogs with international publishers like Oxford University Press. She studied Egyptology, and she studied as well Christian Oriental studies. She received the high recognition from the ERC grant, and she is actually the principal investigator of the Arab-German Young Academy of Science and Humanities, abbreviated as AGYA. She is along with us today through the Zoom, and she wants to welcome you in person. Please, the floor is yours, Professor Kleiner.
Thank you so much, dear Sarah, for this introduction, and welcome, ahlan wa sahlan, to all of you for this wonderful panel. And on behalf of AGYA, it is a great pleasure to be present at COP27, and particularly at a topic like green hydrogen, energy transition, and the future of STEM education in the Arab region and Europe is extremely timely and important. And the Arab-German Young Academy of Sciences and Humanities, in short, AGYA, is funded and sponsored by the Federal Ministry of Education and Research in Germany and several other Arab and German partners. So what is AGYA? To give you the framework in which our panel discussion is happening today. 23 countries, one mission. AGYA connects excellent scholars from Algeria, Bahrain, Comoros, Djibouti, Egypt, Germany, Iraq, Jordan, Kuwait, Lebanon, Libya, Mauritania, Morocco, Oman, Palestine, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Somalia, Sudan, Syria, Tunisia, and the United Arab Emirates with Yemen. What is the AGYA mission? The AGYA brings together excellent Arab and German scholars to face challenges and to develop solutions through research cooperation. The goals and objectives of AGYA are interdisciplinary research, where the realization of innovative interdisciplinary research projects take place, capacity building and promotion of high potential, where projects are initiated on the interface of science and society, research-oriented policy advice, and network building and scientific cooperation in an Arab-German, but also in an Arab-Arab collaborative manner. AGYA, in brief, AGYA was established, we just heard this, in 2013 as the first bilateral young academy worldwide. And our members are early career scholars, 3 to 10 years after their PhD, from all fields of the academic world, so from natural science, life science, social science, technical science, and humanities, but also the arts. And currently, we have 64 members and 65 alumni affiliated with more than 100 prominent university and research institutions in the Arab world and Germany. Our working language is English, and in relation to the format and content, and this is very important for us, AGYA is independent within its academic activities. We do have, and we're very proud of this, a regional office in Cairo at the ASRT, at the Academy of Scientific Research and Technology. And we signed an MOU between AGYA and the Egyptian Academy and the Ministry of Higher Education and Research, after which this office was established. And they supported us also so that we can be here present at COP27. Our working formats and research groups are the following. We have research formats and working groups on Arab and German education, common heritage and common challenges, dynamics of transformation, energy, water and environment, health and society, but also innovation. And let's look briefly at some of the work that our projects and our members are doing. So the AGYA working group, Arab and German education, has been working, developing a math Olympiad camp, for example, in Doha. The working group Health and Society has been really intensely working on an interdisciplinary approach to study and address disease issues such as COVID-19 and which impact this had on the communities. The working group Transformation, of course, looked at the impact of recent popular uprisings, both in Germany and in the MENA region, and on society and their individual academic disciplines. The working group Innovation developed something very interesting, a mobile STEM lab in rural areas where the STEM information are really brought into the communities. And the working group Common Heritage and Common Challenges has been working on, for example, a comparison between the German and the Arab cultural heritage and what we can learn from each other. I personally and Sarah believe that worldwide leaders here in COP27 gather so that efforts to protect the planet for future generations are combined. And an emphasis on protecting cultural heritage as an integral pillar of our responsibility towards future generations is to be raised. Climate change do jeopardize the state of the heritage objects, and their preservation for future generations is of an utmost importance. And therefore, I would like to hand over to Sarah to continue with our presentation. Thank you so much.
As mentioned, we have in total 6 groups. So the working group that we're talking about now is the energy working group, energy, water, and environment. And it's actually a core participant here in the COP27 because we have a lot of efforts that deal with energy production, alternative solar cells, and topics that are related to water desalination, important topics that are related to the environment and preserving the planet. This working group has a lot of projects that I highly advise you to visit our website to know even more details about it that are related to the climate change in Europe. So now we will have a zoom in some of the projects that were conducted with AGYA, and the first one is within the innovation in agriculture under that theme. The female voices from the field, women's empowerment in agriculture. That was the title of the project. Whenever we have the word agriculture in our mind, we think about males doing the farming process in the land. However, the situation is different because there are a lot of females that are actually busy with the farming and agriculture. And that was the aim of that project, is to empower the women's engagement within the agriculture. And for that, there was a policy paper with recommendation what we can do in order to foster more involvement of women and solve their problems when it comes to this field. We have as well a very important topic, which is the vertical farming. Now, as you know, there are limited landscapes that are available for agriculture. So what about having the same area but vertically allowing multiple crops to be cultured? That was one of the projects, and another project related to food security, for instance, it was conducted in Sudan, in which there was genome analysis of some of the crops in Sudan for the sake of development and improvement so as to increase the yield and productivity of them. We had as well the project of solar for food. This one ended up with a prototype for solar dryer system, and the dates were the selected crops for that prototype, so that we can have healthy dry dates made in an economic manner and of course environmental manner as well. There was as well project of interdisciplinary aspects of outdoor thermal comfort. As you know, there are some regions in which the conditions of the weather are very harsh, And for that, we are thinking about the technology that would allow for tolerance of thermal outdoor in a better way. And there was a project entitled as Towards a Sustainable Mobility Future, in which we're calling for more inclusive mobility tools that can include all of us, like the minority having some special needs or in that direction. As you can see from the projects, they are conducted in several countries, not only in one, but in Algeria, in Emirates, in Germany, in Egypt. This is what AGYA is seeking for. For the water resources management, we had a very innovative project in which there were development of new nanocomposites based on silk. Silk is a natural, biocompatible, biodegradable polymer, and that was used for the formulation of foams that can be used in the removal of oily film. And we have as well innovative material for environmental and rehabilitations, in which we study the micro porous polymers to remove the industrial pollution, because we really care about the environment and the planet. There were as well projects, one that is making vital role, coping with COP27, in which we study the green hydrogen role in the energy transition, and that is as well the topic that we will run the panel discussion about. So we will hear from different voices, from policymakers, from people that are involved in the process of hydrogen production as well. And we have a project of the optimized biogas as a potential low-cost energy source, in which we were talking about alternative bioenergy sources that we can rely on, keeping in mind the problem that the whole planet is suffering from energy limitation.
Our research project, as my colleague Sarah just mentioned, we care also about capacity building project, and this is important to build the capacity and invest in students, whether they are postgraduate students, almost a graduate student, or graduate students. So AGYA organized actually 2 trainings. It's improving job market skills for STEM education. This training happened in 3 countries, in Egypt and Palestine, in 2 cities, and in Libya. The first training actually could equip 75 students with the needed skills to compete in labor market nationally and internationally. And the second training, we got application of 2,000 applicants from all the Arab countries, actually from 14 countries, and we could train 500 students to be able to compete in 3 tracks, actually in academia, in industry, in entrepreneurship track. And this is not the end of capacity building projects that AGYA is interested about. We did a practical training and theoretical training about renewable energy systems for Arab students. It was also done in 4 countries, Egypt, Emirates, and Germany. Back to you, Sarah.
We had theoretical and practical training about solar energy that was conducted in Egypt, by the way, so that students could have hands-on on the process of solar energy production. Of course, we have so many details because AGYA is there for since 2013, so many projects were conducted. You can hear about us in further details through the AGYA channel communication. We have a website that I highly recommend to visit regular basis because it's always updating, giving you insights about what we're doing and where you can contact with us, known as agya.info. You can follow us as well at Facebook and Twitter, and very soon we have our own channel. We encourage that we spread the word about our membership. We make a yearly call for new members to join AGYA. The call starts in 19th of Jan, and ends in the 10th of April. We will have a call next year, and it's on yearly basis. Please spread the word. And if you are having a PhD degree from 3 to 10 years, you highly advise to recommend and join us, and together we can make a better future. Thank you. And if you have any questions, please let us know. Yes, please.
But also you have
Thanks a lot for your question. In fact, what we target as beneficiaries or people that gain from AGYA activities are starting from young kids to policymakers. It includes all sectors of the society. You can be easily engaged within AGYA, either through activities or being a guest speakers or a host or a collaborator. I mean, you will benefit. We did projects for the STEM for kids in the school, and we have many activities to do with policymakers, with literature, with heritage, and all sectors. However, there is a difference between being an AGYA member and being someone who's benefiting from AGYA projects. To be a member, you have to show that you have a strong academic record. And for that, a PhD degree is required. And it is recommended that you have your PhD from 3 to 10 years. Being a scholar means that you have scientific way of thinking that's well organized, that you can address questions, and that you can have projects. This is the point that I'm talking about. Being an AGYA member, you can benefit from different channels of funding that you can get from AGYA. One of them is to run research projects. So in your case, you are a master student, how to benefit from that? If you know an AGYA member who is already a PhD holder, you can join this project as a research assistant. You can join the activity as one of the trainees who will get the workshop to hands on. And still you can be engaged with AGYA. But to be a member, the requirement is to be a PhD holder so that you can facilitate those research projects and you can lead the road for the scholars, different fields, whether undergrad or postgrad even, to benefit from it. The funding is from the BMBF, and for that, I mean, some of the regulations content. Yeah, but you can still be in contact and benefit from all the events that AGYA are making.
We also need bread call for applications. We have a call running right now, an AGYA competition. We organize for actually people with your age, so you can easily participate. For people who have innovative ideas, so you can be a part of AGYA in a way or another. You don't have to be a member, but you can benefit from the competition, for example, which is running currently. Or if we will do inshallah the training again, you can apply for it. So it's easy to be part of AGYA.
Workshops, training, projects. You can part of it, but to be a member, there are some eligibility criteria. Okay. Any further questions? If no, then we thank you. And now we will move to a panel discussion.
Okay, I'm not sure, I can't hear you from the room, but maybe we just start.
Yes, we are arranging now for the panel discussion. Yes.
Okay, perfect. I have some slides for you. So hello to Egypt, hello to the COP27. My name is Philipp Blechinger. I'm a member of AGYA, I'm a member in charge of the working group Energy, Water and Environment. And we will bring some insights into the discussion about green hydrogen. And first of all, what we are talking about, if you speak about hydrogen, you will see many colors from green, pink, blue, gray to black, brown. And there's only 3 you might need to remember. One is the black hydrogen, which is the current way of producing it based on fossil fuels. Then there's the blue one, which is a way of using fossil fuels and then doing carbon capture and storage to prevent harmful CO2 emissions. And then there's the green hydrogen, which is based on renewable electricity and using electrolysis for the production of hydrogen. And this will be our focus in this discussion. And where can we apply green hydrogen? First of all, in very many levels. And the question is always, does it make sense technically or economically? And we can see that there's a ranking of applications where it's basically unavoidable to focus on green hydrogen until uncompetitive, where we see mainly direct electrification as the better measure of decarbonizing a certain process or sector or energy delivery. So just giving 2 examples. One is in the unavoidable is fertilizer production. So if we have an industry which needs hydrogen as an input, which is currently based on fossils, we strongly recommend to find an alternative way to do this with green hydrogen. Another discussion is around mobility. And here we often have a discussion, do we go with direct electrification, battery electric vehicles, or do we use hydrogen or power to liquids? And I brought you this slide to briefly say that from an efficiency point of view, for light vehicles, it makes more sense to focus on direct electrification, while hydrogen might be maybe more available in a certain case, but it has a much lower overall efficiency for such processes. And just a summary on what is currently happening. So far, still 99% of global hydrogen is generated from fossil fuels. So there's lots to do in terms of decarbonization, in terms of boosting a green hydrogen economy. Green hydrogen, again, is the hydrogen generated from renewable energy. And if we go for a green hydrogen economy, as I just mentioned, we need to consider efficiency losses. So it's not the silver bullet for all processes, but for some, it's really important. But we also need to take a global perspective, consider energy injustices and challenges which occur when we speak about exporting or importing hydrogen. And here's the German perspective. We collected several studies making an outlook in the year 2030 or 2040 to show like what is the amount of hydrogen we would need in terawatt hours. And we see the range is from like roughly 200 to even up to 1000 terawatt hours, which is just in comparison, we at the moment generate 500 terawatt hours of electricity. So it's a massive spread and a massive gap, which cannot be filled alone by local production. And therefore, and now the link to AGYA and its activities, within AGYA, we started to look at countries which potentially export hydrogen to Europe/Germany. And we really need this perspective. We need to understand, do these exporting countries have the capacities to fulfill the needs of future importing countries? Are they able to do this in a socially and politically just way and not repeating mistakes we made by exploiting countries for fossil fuels? So that's in short a storyline from what is hydrogen, what is green hydrogen, where do we need it, and what is the specific role from exporting countries to countries which will import hydrogen, and what role can AGYA play? And AGYA can play a very significant role because we see the MENA region as one of the future exporting regions for green hydrogen, and Europe/Germany as one of the main importers for this product. And so I'm really happy to be part of that and to discuss with you what specific implications has this perspective. So by that, I stop the screen sharing and I leave it more to an open discussion, but also the slides are available when you approach our colleagues here at the AGYA booth. Thank you.
Are there any questions that we can address? So let me tell you that the voice that we heard is coming from an expert. I'll share with you now a few lines about the biography of Professor Kevin. He is the head of the RLS graduate school and the head of the off-grid systems. He an international expert in decentral energy supply and energy system transition. It was in 2011 when he joined the Rainer Rimoni Institute, and he focused on the analysis of island energy systems by conducting his PhD project. Additionally, he started to develop the off-grid system research unit, which he is currently heading within the unit. He develops and manages project and strategic processes. He worked in managing and team positions in many projects and strengthened his competence for stimulating and optimizing hybrid mini grids. He is as well supervising his PhD students in different topics such as flexibilization, just transition, and mobility sector transformation. He conducted his PhD in engineering about the barriers for implementation of renewable energy on the Caribbean islands. So he has hands-on from the academic for if you have any questions, respond please. This is a question coming from me, sir, because I have this as a personal interest. We heard here in the news that there are some trains in Germany that are now running, total of 14 trains that are being totally dependent on green hydrogen. Would you please comment about this in more detail? Thank you.
Yes, thank you for this question and for sorry for that question. I want to refer to this one slide I've shown, which is the different fields of application for hydrogen. And first for green hydrogen. And first of all, I need to say that in the beginning, it's not so much about for what specific application you use it. We're now in a stage where we need successful pilots to show that the electrolysis with renewable energy is working and that the fueling of, for example, trains, that re-electrification for the energy sector is working. So at the moment, I would not say there's like a good or bad pilot project. It's basically about collecting experiences, bringing the technology into the market, and getting examples how it can work. However, the specific case of trains is now on the edge of competitiveness with the direct electrification of trains or overhead lines. So we see here that rural trains are in the line F. So we see that it's hard for hydrogen trains at the moment to compete with electric trains with batteries. But still, I would say it makes sense to start it and to collect the experiences with the technology. So I think these are great showcase projects, and now we need to evaluate, does it economically make sense to roll them out, or should we use the hydrogen rather for industry or other purposes? So thank you very much for this question.
Thank you for your answer. And here we come to a very important point, which is about the policy. Let us hear it from the policy point of view. And for this, we have our expert, Professor Mark Ringel. Professor Mark Ringel is the director of the European Chair for Sustainable Development and Climate Transition, which is the core of what COP27 is about. He reads energy policy, energy efficiency, and environmental economics as professor at the German University. He is senior associate researcher with the University of Brussels, a former official with the Directorate General Energy of the European Commission and with the German Federal Ministry of Economics and Energy. He continues to be deeply involved in the development and economic assessment of national and European energy efficiency policy framework. He supports policy-oriented research for several national energy action plans and key strategic EU policy actions. He holds a master in economics from Mainz University and the Université d'Angers, France. His PhD thesis focused on energy policy measures to combat climate changes. His HDR on sustainability management in the public sector. So the floor is yours to welcome the audience, please. With that, we'll have along with it.
Well, thank you very much, Sarah, and hello from Paris to Sharm El Sheikh. Hello to you at the COP. As you said, and thank you very much for the introduction. I mean, as you said, I'm an economist. So I'll put on the economic perspective in this debate here, which has already been raised by Philip. So I mean, basically kicking off, I mean, 3 arguments from my side to really present the topic. I mean, argument number 1 is a slightly stupid one, but I think it's good to remind us that basically, I mean, green hydrogen or hydrogen technology has been around for ages, so it's nothing new. But basically, this technological option was never drawn actually into our system due to missing economics. So really, there is a strong economic background on that, and pretty much it's the aspect of being competitive. Which also needs to be demonstrated by the projects, as said by Philip. So really, in that sense, the development of projects really, and also not only, well, production size, but also related infrastructure need to take into account to actually get green hydrogen competitive in relation to other energy carriers in the medium and long run. Yes, we start off with research and development. That is pretty much the stage where we are. But when we develop these projects, it is also important to keep in mind that these projects have to be competitive in the medium and long term to really get market speed and attract broader attention to be taken up. Third point, and there I leave it with a short intro statement. Third point, all of that is, of course, requiring loads of investments in terms of channeling money into research and development in these programs. And here, in that sense, putting that on governments is not enough. So government spending is necessary, government projects are necessary, but clearly not sufficient, which means that we need to look into innovative public-private partnerships to really develop the story of green hydrogen. And that is not going to be national well, solutions alone, but that is going to be international partnerships, which again is linking it closely to AGYA, and as Philip has been saying, linking it closely to Europe, developing European economies very much along the strategy of the European Green Deal. So going into green hydrogen, but necessitating that actually 1/3 minimum of that green hydrogen is imported from other regions. And here, of course, MENA as a neighboring region is the prime focus. I think with these 3 points, I stop for the time being and hand it over to you, Sarah.
Thank you. Thank you for making it that close for us to see from that policy and economic point of view. And the floor is open if you have any questions regarding this matter. So as an interest for me, can you briefly describe for us the status of the policy in recognition to the current energy crisis? Are you revising or rewriting the policies of the alternative energy? Because as you know, globally there is now the issue of the crisis for energy. Is there some effort taking place in the last, I would say, year in that regard?
Yes, I think clearly so. I mean, with the crisis and the crisis of rising energy prices is, I mean, a crisis of fossil fuels. Leaving the reasons aside, but it's a crisis of fossil fuels, which has only, I mean, sort of in a way put us to a sort of fast forward into a future with fuel scarcity, scarce resources and rising prices, even though that's artificially done so. But I mean, it's speeding us up to think about alternatives. Whereas until now, and pretty much, I mean, the argument was on well, the climate side, basically, so transformation for climate change. There's now a second argument coming in. That is the argument of supply security and supply stability for all our regions. So in that sense, I mean, the current crisis, if there is something good to it, I would probably say the good is that it gets us to think, and it's actually, I mean, impeding us to speed up on all our efforts to develop alternative energy sources. And that goes clearly for renewable energies, and that goes clearly for green hydrogen and saving energy. So pretty much, the crisis has not been, as has often been the case. I mean, that's the sort of downside and the story side and the disappointing side of climate change. Whenever another crisis occurs, climate change is put on, you know, for tomorrow, day after tomorrow, because there's something more urgent to solve. With that, what we are witnessing now with the energy crisis, that has certainly played out differently, giving us hope that actually story will develop differently in terms of saying, well, you know, we've got ever more reasons to go for renewables and to go for green hydrogen. So in that aspect, at least from the European policy side, from the German policy side, policymakers have been extremely clear in terms of saying we want to speed up the transformation and let's really go for this to actually get us out of the deadlock and at the same time work to combat climate change.
Thank you. And when you mentioned that there is a need for more engagement from the private sector, is it made in the direction of more rewarding and facilitating the transition so that you would promote more engagement from the private sector? Or rather made in the direction of making some penalties if the CO2 emission is increasing, for instance? How do you see that it's the best approach to encourage and engage more private sector to be there?
I mean, on the one side, on the side of carbon emissions, I mean, there will be a strong urge and need actually to do policies to actually punish greenhouse gas emissions or sort of, I mean, incentivize companies to decarbonize. Speaking of green hydrogen, though, the story is different and more positive, I would say, for the private sector, because clearly across all regions across the board, I mean, if you look at market potential, I mean, just drawing some figures in, I mean, if you believe studies from PricewaterhouseCoopers and other research companies, I mean, forecasted market revenue actually from hydrogen just for the US market is some $245 billion. So that's massive. The forecasted potential actually to develop hydrogen across the globe really is massive. So massive potential and for cost decreases in especially sub-Saharan Africa, Latin America, North America to some extent, MENA, less sure Europe. So that potential which I'm mentioning here translates actually into an economic potential and economic opportunities to develop green hydrogen. So in that sense, I mean, private companies will have a strong investment case in going into this field and will probably find very favorable government conditions to actually engage in that field. So in terms of getting innovation in place, getting government support in place and getting a sort of favorable market environment in place, all signs look set actually to develop green hydrogen and really develop market opportunities. So in that sense, I think the story for the private sector across the globe is looking clearly promising.
Thank you. There are a lot of companies promote themselves being more towards green, more towards sustainability. That was not in the past 10 years, for instance. Like we all hear it even in the flights that we came from to Sharm El Sheikh to COP27, that the crew is announcing that this flight is made with 80% sustainability or towards better use of alternative energy sources. So I see that the private sector can really work on that marketing, because now we have more awareness about our responsibility towards the planet and the new generation. Thanks a lot. And as we mentioned, we care in AGYA about, as you have seen, talking about the science, like the production of the green hydrogen, talking about the policy from that perspective, and talking about the need for innovative educational system. Because now we're talking about new term, green hydrogen, sustainability. So we need ourselves, our students, for the new future with the new perspective. And for this, there have been focus on STEM education as being one of the aspects of the new educational programs that we need to work on in parallel with moving towards more sustainable use of our resources. And for that, there was several projects addressed to the STEM education, and we are glad that today we have one of the AGYA members that was in charge of one of the projects that focused about STEM education. And let me introduce her. She's Associate Professor Dr. Lubna Saeed. She is the senior member of IEEE in 2020. She is a full-time associate professor at the Faculty of Engineering and Applied Science, Nile University. She is currently the director of the Microelectronic System Design Master Program and the co-director of the Nano-Electronic Integrated System Design Research Center since September 2021. She received her bachelor, master, and PhD degrees in electronics and electrical communications from Cairo University in 2007, 2011, and 2016, respectively. She has over 150 publications distributed between high-impact journal conferences and book chapters. She is having her research interest as interdisciplinary, including modeling, control optimization techniques, analogs and digital integrated circuits, fractional order circuits, and system nonlinear analysis. She was involved in many national and international research grants. She is the vice chair of the technical chapter of the IEEE Egypt section, and she is an elected member in EYAS, which is the Egyptian Young Academy of Sciences, and she as well a member in the Arab German Young Academy of Sciences and Humanities, AGYA, and she was leading a very sounding project that she will tell us more about. We welcome you. Thank you for being along with us.
Thank you so much. Actually, it is really important if we are talking about climate change and the energy crisis is to educate our youth from the beginning. So this is really important. As we are talking about the problems, the current problem in STEM education that, as you can see around us, the evolving world and the very changing labor market make there is some problems in our educational system because it cannot cope with the fast changing labor market. And it's not only about the technical skills that are needed for the graduate to compete and to be an international graduate if we are looking at this, because now the world is considered a small village and we need to have a qualified student. So in AGYA, we care about this, and we actually, the first training we implemented, as I mentioned in the introduction, it was about how to equip them with the soft skills needed for them to compete in the labor market. But the problem is with the current energy crisis that we need to introduce new concepts in the curriculum itself, just to match or to raise awareness about this, to change the mindset of the students towards a sustainable world, towards a sustainable work environment later on. So we suggested that if it is not possible to change the current curriculum, so we can introduce or recommend to have micro degrees to include smart city sustainability and to start writing like to educate the students about eco-friendly materials to use in workspace, to use in schools, to use in universities, to have a culture of this, to change their culture and the mindset into eco-friendly economy and what is sustainable development and how to integrate smart cities and how to use different disciplines to build smart cities, because it is actually really important and this is the future. And how we have an energy crisis, you have to educate the students about this, and this could be done through awareness campaigns, micro degrees as we mentioned, and also including electives in either in university level or school levels if we cannot change the current curricula. So this elective control can be like about sustainability, sustainable development goals, sustainability in engineering, sustainability in medicine, sustainability in other discipline, in each discipline. And it's important to get everybody in a dialogue-based conversation to raise awareness about this. And of course, the training, any training in any STEM education or others education should include the sustainability as aspect of this training, and how can they practice sustainability in their daily life. If they could do this, I think we will have a new generation which has full awareness about our problems, which we are facing in the near future. Thank you.
Are there any questions regarding the topic of education, remarks, what you suggest as something that we can do in the future? Yes, please.
Thank you. I want to add something. Here in Egypt, the education system is already crowded. The curriculum is really crowded. So, are you thinking about just adding some new subjects to just make it more heavier on the student, or just we should make some activities in these things? I think you didn't mention activities for small students and small boys. You mentioned, do you see right like this?
Actually, activities exist. It's not about just the activity. It has to be a lifestyle. How to be a lifestyle of this. The current educational system, yes, it is huge and it is busy and it's crowded, but is it efficient enough? This is the question. We have to raise the point about this. It is not. Why? Because it's every day the labor markets are changing. Some jobs will disappear according to many reports. If you read the Q reports, the UN reports, if you read any reports, you will find jobs will disappear, will destroy, which indicate also there are some disciplines won't have a future. So you need to have an adaptable student. You need to have an adaptable mind. We are actually trying to change this now by doing our practical training to provide materials online. If you check AGYA websites, you will find lots of materials for graduates and actually almost graduates. These materials are helping them to gain the skills they are missing, because due to the nature of education, which is crowded, you don't have time to do projects, you don't have time to do activities, you don't have time to do this. And all what you gained from, what you actually could gain from other activities rather than the normal being education, you know, the instruction-based education, you're not going anywhere. So this needs to change, and this has to change. And how this could change? We have to try to introduce more electives, to introduce more actually appealing courses. It's not just the normal courses, and this is important. We're here just to shed the light about this, and this is actually really important matter. This is plus the awareness campaigns and the activities, of course, this exists. Thank you.
Thank you for your participation. And if you have any questions, please feel free to contact with us. You have our own channels, and we will see you around. Thank you for having us today with you. Thank you.